I just got my first snake today. He's a ball python. I named him Monty. Get it? Monty Python? So I know I just got my first ball python, but I saw her at the reptile show and I just couldn't resist. She's a banana spider. Babe, if we get this orange stream pied, our babies could be worth $800 a piece. Should I buy it? You gotta see this banana clown het pied. $3,500. You know we could make world's first if we bought her. You think we could take a loan out on the house? This Suma pied is selling for $6,000. All we need to do is get a super mahogany het pied. We could create these in a few years. Did you see Brian Barczyk's new video? We're gonna open a zoo like this one day. That's why your snake's not eating. Do some research. Me? Me do research? Come on, I got 23 snakes. I think I know what I'm talking about. All right, we got 2 mediums, 3 small mediums, 6 small, 6 weaned, and 12 pups. That'll be $78.89. How much? That's every week. Yeah, I was just checking to see if you still wanted this collection. Well, there's about $7,000 worth of snakes, but I let them go for about $4,500. Yeah, that's with the pieds and the clown. $3,000? Come on, you gotta at least do $3,500. All right, yeah, I'll take it. All right, let's talk on a more serious note now. I've been in the hobby since 2016. I really love seeing new people enter the hobby, but there's a lot of different kinds of people in the hobby. We got people that just have one or a couple pet snakes. They're more than content with just having a pet snake or a couple pet snakes or bearded dragon. And then there's people that like to have quantity, that like to have a lot of snakes, but not necessarily breeding. They might just have 8, 10, 12, 15 snakes, and they just really enjoy the reptiles, you know. But I'd say a good portion of the new people that enter the hobby go through the system like you saw previously in the video. Now I do, you know, try to make it funny, but in all seriousness, it really sucks, you know. A lot of people enter the hobby because they bought a normal snake or they got a snake from Craigslist. It usually almost always is a normal ball python. And when I say hobby, a lot of times I refer to just ball pythons because that seems to be the main thing. But they'll get one snake and then they'll find Morph Market and they see all these prices and they'll see these reptile YouTubers that have thousands of snakes and the breeding, and they think they're going to become, like I say, the next Brian Barczyk, where they want to breed and produce snakes to sell for thousands of dollars. Now, for the most part, for the majority of those people, they're going to buy a snake. Within a couple weeks, they're going to start buying more. They're going to see Morph Market. They're going to see all this money that they can make. And they just start buying everything they can. They're searching Craigslist. They're taking in all kinds of free snakes or cheap snakes. And they're going to the pet stores. They're looking for deals. They're going to the reptile shows. And a lot of these people just accumulate as much as they possibly can in a very short amount of time. Now, once they realize how much work, how much time, and how much money goes into caring for a large collection, which could be 20 snakes to some, it could be 100 snakes to others. But once they realize how much time and energy goes into cleaning and feeding and pairing all these different animals, they realize quickly that they almost have another full-time job. And they're not getting any return on their investment. If you were to buy 2 baby snakes, you're going to have to feed them and clean them and pair them. You're going to grow them up for at least 3 years before you can even start pairing them. Then, after all that, you have to, pair them for a few months and all that before you ever even get eggs. Now, a lot of people are buying adults that are ready to breed, or they're proven breeders, and they're able to jumpstart their breeding projects fairly quickly. However, once you realize how much time, energy, and especially money you're putting into a large collection, and then when they have their first clutch, they might only, make $500 or $1,000 on that first clutch, realizing that they're spending $100 a week to feed them, they quickly realize that it's not the get-rich-quick thing that they hope it to be. So sometimes people don't even get to the point where they actually hatch eggs or where the snake gets to lay eggs. Usually within 6 months to a year, they quickly fizz out and sell their collection, most of the time to the point where they have no snakes at all. I hate seeing that. I love seeing people enter the hobby. I love seeing people with a passion for the animals and for the reptiles. It's awesome because we're instantly connecting, and we're sharing a passion for reptiles that a lot of people don't have. A lot of people don't like snakes. A lot of people hate reptiles, but we share that hobby. We share that passion. But then when I see all these people that just dive in head first and buy, a lot of these people are taking out loans. They're selling their stuff. They're maybe not paying their rent or paying their bills. I've seen people go without gas or electric in their house for a few days. They're steady buying snakes, but they can't even keep their lights on because all their money is tied up in their hobby. And then there's no return. Then they realize, this is too much. I cannot handle another full-time job that's not paying me nothing. In fact, it's costing me hundreds of dollars a month. They sell all their snakes. Now, one thing about snakes, depending on how you do this, you're not always going to get your money back. A lot of times you might buy a snake for $200. If you're looking for a quick sale, you might have to sell that snake for $100 later. So you're going to lose a lot of money. A lot of times up to 50% or more than 50% you're going to lose when you resell your snakes and when you resell your collection. Then, when that happens, and I do apologize for rambling. I'm not the greatest at making videos and all that stuff yet, but when that happens, a lot of times these snakes might go many weeks or many months without eating, without being cleaned, without anything, or they get passed around from home to home. Some of these snakes have 5, 6, 10 homes, and they're never really comfortable anywhere because they just get passed around. A lot of people tend to forget that they are living, breathing animals, and they treat them like a hobby, like they're Pokemon cards or something like that. They're passing them around. They're only looking at them as money, and that's another thing. A lot of people that see the dollar signs on Morph Market, they think they're going to make a lot of money, and at the same time they need to keep their overhead down. So a lot of people enter the hobby for the love of the animal, and then they continue the hobby trying to create a business, a profitable, a lucrative business. So they're feeding their animals less, and they're changing their diet from, say you're feeding your baby snakes a rat every 5 days or every 7 days. Well, now all of a sudden you go from being a hobby to being a business. You start feeding them small mice every 2 or 3 weeks instead of a rat, because mice are cheaper. Problem is, mice are smaller, and you're going to feed your snake a third of what you used to feed them to keep your overhead down. And I've seen that too. I've seen people that, they used to spend probably $300 a month buying rats for their collection when they had the passion for their animals. And then when they go to change it into a business, they're going all the way down to less than $100 a month to feed the same amount of snakes, because they're trying to keep their overhead down. And in actuality, you're more or less starving your animals because all you think about now is money. And when you dive in head first, you quickly realize that it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time and money to care for a large collection, and you're not going to get a return as quickly as you hope. And then a lot of people end up, like I said, fizzing out and getting out of the hobby completely. Then they don't even have a single pet snake. I hate seeing that. You know, don't forget these are animals. Don't keep looking at Morph Market, and don't keep looking at the price of what you can make one day and totally forget how much work, time, energy, and money has to go into it. The hobby is great. If you do it right, you can make a few bucks, but it does take many years in most cases to actually turn a profit. I remember watching a YouTube video 3-4 years ago where a guy said, if you want to make $1 million breeding snakes, what you first have to do is go out and buy $1 million worth of snakes, because that's the only way. There are top people in the hobby that's been breeding for 20-30 years that are producing thousands and thousands of snakes and world's first, and they are actually doing this as a full-time business. But for the most part, for the high majority, it takes a long time before you can turn that hobby into a business. One of my local customers, who I have more respect for her, and I hold her to a higher standard than most other breeders I know, only because she only sells what she produces. She's not just buying and selling to make money. She only sells what she produces. She only produces what she loves. And she feeds her snakes the way they should be fed, the way they need to eat. And it's never changed. And this particular breeder, I have seen work 2 and 3 jobs for the last, 4 or 5 years just to keep her collection going. And you're talking someone that's producing, maybe 70, 80 snakes a year, which isn't incredible. It isn't a huge amount, but she's still working sometimes 2 or 3 jobs every day, every week, to be able to afford to keeping her hobby together. She's not at the point where she can quit her jobs and live full time off of selling snakes. And like I said, she's been doing this for probably 4 or 5 years now. It takes a lot, and it takes a lot of patience. And not only that, there's so many things that can go wrong. Matter of fact, my very first clutch that I ever produced. Now, I didn't grow them up from babies. They did start out as proven breeders. But the very first clutch of eggs I have ever hatched, they all died. They were all kinked. I believe it was the mother. I never bred her again. I sold her as a pet only. But I lost that whole first clutch. Now, imagine if I did start those out as babies and I grew that female up for 3.5 years, put all that time and money into her just to find out that she cannot reproduce successfully. That's a hard hit, and that's just one snake, that's just one clutch. And you got hundreds of snakes. I mean, you can have power outages. There's so many things that can go wrong and do go wrong. And you can find that information on YouTube. You can find that information on Facebook groups. A lot can go wrong. And the best thing, this from cooking, slow and steady, the slow cooker, the crock pot, those are the best meals. Slow and steady wins the race. Just think about what you're doing when you're new to the hobby. Be patient. Let it build up slowly. Do it because you love it. Don't think about the money. For 5 years, don't think about the money. Think about the animals. Love the animals. Only breed only breed what you love, what you have a passion for, and what you want to see, what you want to create. Don't let the money go to your head, because 9 out of 10 times you're not going to make any money breeding snakes. And if you do, you're talking at least 5 years down the road before you're producing enough to cover all that you've put into it. Because in the beginning, in them first couple years, you're buying the snakes, you're buying the food, the racks, the incubator, the heat tape, the thermostats. You're putting so much into it in them first few years. Even if and when you produce clutches of eggs during them first couple of years, it's not going to compare to all the money that you're putting into it. So don't dive in head first. Be patient. Look at other people. Talk to other breeders. See how they do it. Be patient. Do not ever spend money you do not have buying snakes. You know, I've seen it 1,000 times, and I hate to see it because a lot of people, I buy those snakes. When they get out of the hobby, I buy those collections, and I feel terrible, you know, when someone has $1,500 in a small group of snakes, and I can only give them $800-900 for those same snakes. You know what I mean? They're taking a big loss, and I can't pay them what they got into them because we're reselling them in the store. I can't pay retail and sell them for retail. Not only that, I love giving deals. So most of the snakes we sell anyway, we sell for less than market price. So I have to buy your snake at such a good price that I can resell it for less than market value and still make a couple dollars profit for myself. Because it costs a lot of money to run this store and this farm, you know. I just ask that if you're new to the hobby, take a breath, take it slow, and have some patience. You're going to need it. It's a beautiful hobby, but be patient. With that, I'm out of here. I hope you all have a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and I will see you when I see you. Have a good one.